Brian, again, is the CISO nationwide. He has more than 18 years of experience in IT security management. Joined Nationwide in 2001, where he's held a number of security roles, working his way up to CISO. Although he's seen many changes in the field, perhaps the most significant is the increased interest and involvement in security programs from executive management. So apparently the executives there have been reading the newspapers. Brian spent 10 years teaching elementary school in the Columbus suburbs, and prior to moving into an IT consulting role where he managed web development for several organizations. His interest in securing the technology he was deploying led him to change his direction and become the manager of a small security team in 1998. And he's dealt with the evolution of security and the evolution of threats. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Brian Baacke.
Good morning, everybody. I don't know if they mentioned in my bio, I was sort of talking in the back, but I spent 10 years as an elementary education teacher, and so when I get in front of a room like this, first thing in the morning with flags behind me, I'm thinking we should do the Pledge of Allegiance. But I didn't think that would go over very well, so I'm going to go with option 2. One of my mentors said to me, always start your speeches with a joke, but not just any joke, terrible joke. So, related to incident response and computers, what do you call it when a computer has a virus? It's a terminal illness. So there we go. We're started. All right, Nationwide Children's Hospital. We are a complex organization, 1.2 million annual visits. A lot of people don't know we have more than 60 locations. We have more than 15,000 user accounts. Many of those are thousands of students who come and go every year, so a lot of coming and going. We're more than a hospital. We are a hotel. We provide guest wireless. We're a retail chain. We sell things. We sell food. We have a lot going on there, and we are responsible for a lot of compliance things. We have HIPAA, FSMA, PCI, FDA regulations, a lot of compliance requirements. So we're a complex organization, and so things can happen. So I got a couple slides. Some of my network buddies, I think Lewis is back there somewhere. He shares with me what he finds in his telecom rooms. This is one slide. That's one of our core switches in our main hospital. It's got a, AJ, I think this is for you. This is one of our core switches in our main hospital, and you can see that there's a cup of Monster juice sitting on top of it, half filled. So they find that kind of stuff, and that's a pretty big risk. Another one he shared with me is they were doing some plumbing work. We got a call that the wireless wasn't working in an area, and apparently when the plumber was welding the pipes together, he didn't pay attention to the fact that the wireless router was behind it, and he melted that thing pretty good. So this is another situation where somebody doing some construction over there needed to reach the ceiling, and so he thought that thing looked like a ladder. That's a stack of switches. You can see the footprints on top. You can also see, if you look real close, there's little pieces of foam in between where he sort of realized he had bent them down, and he sort of restacked them and stuck some foam in between those switches, and so there's some things that can happen. So this is a video. I want you to see the video, and then I'm going to tell you the story of what this thing is. So it'll be funny after I tell you the story. So that is a series of events. At Children's Hospital, we talk a lot about usually not one thing causes an event, it's many things that cause an event. This is a scenario where we had a delivery coming to from our main loading dock to our taxi data center, and the guy that was driving the truck wasn't supposed to be driving a truck in the first place, but he thought he'd go do the delivery. So he gets to the entrance where he's supposed to pull in, and there's another truck parked there. So he thought, this is a big truck, I'll just go up over the curb. And so when he went up over the curb, he picked the spot where due to construction, the wires were hanging down a little bit lower than they're supposed to be. So we went up over the curb, lost a little control, pulled the wire into the truck, and that is one of our two main circuits going to the hospital to the data center. And so there they were. We got some video of them hammering the thing out of the truck. And believe it or not, they got it out of there without an incident. But a lot of things can happen, right? And we're not alone. So I did some research. I wanted to pull back. I didn't want to name any specific hospitals. You know, we're all reading the articles on what's going on in the security world. But I did find some sort of overall data. From datalossdb.org, there were 736 million records stolen. And I thought, I wonder how that compares to the population. Well, we have 323 million people in the U.S. as of that moment that I took that slide. And I think that means statistically we've all lost our records twice in the last year. In healthcare IT news, I went back, I wonder if there's an interesting article I can post. They have this article there, there's 33 highlighted feature stories about hospitals and healthcare organizations that lost data in 2015. I went back through them, most of them made the news, but I was just shocked when I went back and sort of put them in the context of a year, what all had happened, and there's a couple interesting ones in there that I hadn't remembered. So you can check that link out if you'd like. And then I went out to HHS Gov and said, what's happening this year? And I actually was shocked myself that 83 organizations already in the first quarter of 2016 had reported breaches of 500 or more. And I just thought that these numbers are getting staggering, right? So there's a lot going on at Children's, there's a lot going on everywhere. And so what I wanted to speak about today is incident response, and incident response is a must-have. Obviously, number one, it fulfills a requirement that we have to, for all of those different regulations, regardless of who you are, you have a requirement. And then we want to minimize the impact of an event to an organization. And 3 and 4, we have to protect our organizations and our brand, and we have to communicate with customers. I want to tell a couple stories related to social media, because I think if you don't have social media in your incident response plans yet, you got to get it there. So, first story is, this is probably going back 10 years, Facebook was new, MySpace was all the rage, and Facebook was blocked on our internet. People were like, we need Facebook, it's my way I'm going to professionally relate to other people, and I'm like, I don't get it. So I'm like, I got to get a Facebook account. So I went out, I got a Facebook account, I got to figure out what this thing is, and I did what everybody that gets a Facebook account does. I went and friended everybody that I could find, and then those friends became friends, and those friends became friends. So I had this intermingling of everybody I knew who was on Facebook at that time. So I go on vacation with my family. I'm out in the swimming suit on a boat, and we're taking pictures, and I post one of those pictures up to my Facebook account. I get back to work, and one of the people at work, one of the girls at work says, Brian, I never thought I'd see you with your shirt off. And I was like, that's weird. I went immediately, I removed all of my work friends from Facebook, and ever since then I have separated work from home on Facebook accounts. So that's one story. But a little bit more related to incident response, there was a thing that happened in our building. Our IT building is off campus. And a couple years ago, they distributed what to do in a bomb threat. They said, you got to have this thing on every phone. So we distributed them around our IT building. Every phone got one. Lo and behold, about a week later, people find a package. There's a package in a cube. And people around that cube space are like, what's going on? You know, did anybody see that package get delivered? Nobody saw the package get delivered. People start getting a little nervous. Like, maybe it's a bomb. Should we call that bomb threat thing? And so they're about ready to call to follow the protocol and declare a bomb threat and all these things. And somebody comes down and they're like, oh, that was an engagement present. And it came from somebody upstairs. They had delivered it. Nobody saw it. It's just an engagement present. So you think that's the end of the story, but that wasn't the end of the story. So the person who gave the present goes on her Facebook page and says, I just about caused a bomb scare at Nationwide Children's Hospital today. I think about 3 seconds later, there were 4 people in my door going, what's the bomb threat? I'm getting a call from physical security. What's the bomb threat at Children's Hospital? And that's where I was introduced to the speed of social media and realized that our incident response has to have a social media component, because not just from the perspective of, the public, but also your employees are going to be on social media. There's going to be new stuff to deal with. The media's picking up these stories. Next thing you know, this thing's going crazy. So protecting the organization and the brand and communicating with customers is an important part of incident response, but especially with the social media era that we're in. Facilitates people knowing their role. Do your C-level people know what their role in an incident response is? Does your board? Do you want your board, when they hear about an incident, in your stuff while you're trying to figure it out? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if they don't know, and you're not telling them what their job is, then they're going to assume it's their job to fix it. And so having a plan facilitates that. And then bringing impact services back online ASAP. And I think in healthcare, I've been in security for a long time, and we've had a lot of conversations about the privacy of information. I think those conversations are going to start switching. Remember, we have a triangle, CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And I think we're going to have a lot more conversations about availability, a lot more conversations about integrity. The research that's dependent on our data, the livelihoods that are dependent on our data being accurate, and the availability, and we've all seen it this year with the ransomware. So our conversations in the security world are going to refocus, and incident response is a huge part of availability and bringing things back. So it's a must-have. So what are my objectives for the rest of the presentation? So I'm introducing incident response. Really, I have a pretty simple goal. We have a lot of variety of people in here. Your incident response plans are all at different levels. I don't know if some people don't even have one. Some people probably have way better ones than I have. But my goal is to just share some things that we think we're doing well within our incident response plan. Maybe you can take some nuggets out of here with you. Maybe I can give you an idea of how to get something started that you didn't have before. And so some things that we're doing well, one of them is we have a really good governance group going. I'll tell you how we got it started and how we're using that. We have done some very creative things around testing our incident response team. And like I mentioned, I want you to have some concrete idea when you leave here, something that you can go back and do. So I've based the agenda on the NIST framework. Let me catch up with myself here. Their incident handling guide. And they have 4 steps to incident response: preparation, detection and analysis, containment, eradication and recovery, and post-incident activity. I'm going to focus most of my talk around preparation, and then a little bit around post-incident activity. And I'll just touch on the middle 2 sections. So I think a lot of that middle stuff is really very organization dependent based on your technology, what you have in place, who your people are, who your vendors are. So let's jump into preparation. Talk a little bit about incident response teams. I'll tell you what I remember. I talked to our privacy officer, and we've combined our incident response. Our privacy team and our security teams have combined, and we're using one process, which we think is great. And I got to hand it to our privacy team. They have refined it and made it much better than we could have ever made it. They do a lot of the work. So, but I talked to our privacy officer and tried to recall, how did we start? I can't even remember in a certain way. What I recalled was several years ago, I got a call from the FBI. And interesting story, they called me up and they said, we want to talk to the security guy. I'm like, I'm the security guy. And they were in the process of prosecuting a guy who was working as a vendor, working as an employee of a vendor. The guy had been doing some technology work at a hospital, and he couldn't get some log file or some sort of file that had PHI from that server the way he was supposed to. So he had the brilliant idea of what he would do is he would post that file up to his website, and then he could get it from there, then he could support the hospital. So he moved this file to his website, and apparently forgot about it. So Google picks it up, of course, and somebody whose name was in that file did a Google search with their name and their social security number, and this guy's stuff comes up. And they escalated it, they called somebody. Next thing you know, this guy's got the FBI there. And he's dealing with hundreds of records that he just compromised. And the healthcare organization's dealing with a breach. And so the FBI guy says to me, we checked out this guy's email, and we've got all his email. All of his emails are coming from one IP address, which we believe to be his home, except for he checked his email one other time, and it comes from Nationwide Children's email address. Do you think he could have done the same thing to you? And I thought, I don't know. How would I know that? Who do I have to get involved in that conversation to know that? What kind of logs do we have to be able to demonstrate to me that this stuff is coming and going? And so, from my perspective, that story ended, but it was an introduction to me to say, Brian, wake up a little bit. You need to go put together a team that can help you figure out what are the technologies in place to know the answers to the questions you might get asked in an incident. And so that was a good one. But other key things that we've done, we've built key relationships. I mentioned our privacy officer. They're really critical to us and our legal department, and I'll talk a little bit more about them later in the presentation. But when I was talking to Jill, our security officer, she said what she remembered about us starting was she just wanted an automated way to track all the events so that when it came time to report at the end of the year, she had them all in one place. And so we helped her build a SharePoint, and then we said, well, why do we have two? Why don't we have one? We'll put the security events and everything together, and we'll just have categories for the various different things. And so from that started the incident response team, and so it was Jill, myself, legal, and then we had